Hey guys, Brian here at home using my tablet as my viewfinder. And I got a question from a buddy, Josh, who is a truck driver. And now I used to be a truck driver, so there's a special place in my heart for truckers that are trying to improve their health and fitness. I don't know if you can see my cap, but it's a Prime Ink cap. This is from my good old truck driving days, which is where I got interested in health and fitness to begin with. And so I'm going to read his email and I'm going to answer his questions here. So, got a couple questions, hoping you can help me out with. Main question is about scheduling. If I understood it correctly, it sounded like you found out how to stay on the next day loads regularly. How? Okay, so what he's talking about is he drives for Prime Ink, and he drives the dedicated Walmart runs in Olney, Illinois, and that was an account that I had myself, and I found a way to be on next day loads on a regular basis. And so his question is about that. And if this video gets close to 17 minutes, it's going to have to be like a two-parter, because he's got a couple of questions here that I have to go into some depth, and GoPro gets kind of weird when my videos go over 17 minutes, so I'll stop them before that. So main question is about scheduling. If I understood correctly, it sounded like you found out how to stay on next day loads regularly. How? I've noticed that even if I set my PTA to 11 p.m. or later, they give me some meat and produce or a frozen dairy load, never a next day. But if I don't set my PTA, then someone will set an arbitrary one for me. I don't know if it's someone at Olney or Springfield, Missouri, the main office, or main terminal. I've got on the next day loads a few times, maybe even for a few days in a row, but I've never been able to stick on any given schedule for longer than a few days at a time. I'm still, quote, at their mercy. I remember you talking about James in the Olney office. Thinking of it now, should I be talking to him each night? Maybe he'll keep my PTA open so I can keep grabbing next days. I don't know, that just came to mind. Okay, so to answer this question, the best way to stay on next day loads is to set your PTA. And he's talking about even if he sets his PTA to 11 p.m. or later, they give me a meat and produce or frozen dairy load, but never a next day. That's because you're setting your PTA too late. So like if you want to get a next day load, you've got to get back to the Olney yard early, or be able to get back to the yard early. You don't actually have to go back to the yard. You don't have to stay at the Walmart yard. You can stay at the last Walmart that you drop off if they'll let trucks stay overnight and if there's parking. You can stop in like Mount Vernon on the way back and stay at that TA there. You don't have to go back to the Walmart yard, but you need to be able to go back to the Walmart yard in order to pick up next day loads, if that's what you really want. Let me find your email again so I can... Okay, so, but you need to set your PTA earlier. If I remember correctly, I don't know if it still works this way. It's been a while since I've been at Olney. But the loads go out in two waves. And one wave starts really early in the morning, about 6 a.m., 9 a.m. if I remember correctly. And then another wave of loads starts going out at around 4 p.m., right, 1600. And so I would always set my PTA as early as possible. Trouble is, so are all the other drivers. No driver really wants to drive overnight. It's dangerous, your body wants to be asleep, it's tiring. Some people really don't want to do the night runs. So a lot of them are setting their PTA for the morning run. They want the morning wave. And any driver that doesn't get a load in the morning is going to be pushed to the second load. And they're going to be getting loads at 4 p.m. when they come out. There are some drivers who want to do the second wave, but they don't want to get their load at 11 p.m. because then they'd have to drive through the night. They really would rather not do that. So they try to get their load at 4 p.m. so that they can be kind of done by midnight. I mean, you'll only, well, I can't say that. Different loads go to different places and take different amounts of time. But generally speaking, you're not going to do 500-mile days. You're not going to have 500-mile days on the Olney account. That's why they pay you more money per mile, because you're going to be getting less miles. Less miles means less time right? I'm sure you can do trucker math. You can do the distance divided by time. You get your speed, all that. But there's a lot of competition for the early loads. So you need to set your PTA earlier than you think you need to in order to get the time slot you want. And you can only get kind of close. Like, you're never going to hit your bullseye. I would always set my load, or my PTA, to 1800, 1700. No, I'm not sorry. Well, sometimes 1700, but generally 1800 to 2000, 6 to 8 p.m. That's about where I would set my PTA, because I would wake up at like 4 o'clock. So I was never surprised. I would always wake up at 4, and I was ready for a load anytime as early as 1700, but I would prefer not to get a load later than 2000, 2100. But it does happen, and if it does happen, you'll just have to deal with it. That's just the nature of the beast. And the other suggestion that I have is to make friends with your fleet manager, whoever that is. James, is it James Young? James Young was mine. Real good guy. Real cool guy too. The evening shift, I found it to be more chill. The evening staff in the office, it's way more chill. It's not as busy. There's less going on, and I think they have more time to take care of you. So you really want to be on the night runs if fitness and doing something besides trucking is kind of your goal. I'm sure there are people who make it work on the day runs, but I never did that, so I couldn't give you advice on that. But set your PTA early. Like, set your PTA for 1800. I'll just tell you specifically. Set your PTA for 1800. Make sure that you are awake by about 1600. That way, if they want to give you a load as early as 1700, you can take it. You'll be awake, and you won't be surprised. They won't be banging on your truck door and waking you up while you're trying to sleep. Set your PTA for 1800, but be awake at 1600 so you can take a load earlier if they have one. But be prepared mentally for the times when you will get a load as late as 2100 or later. I've gotten loads at midnight. I mean, it happens. And if it does, don't be frustrated. That's just how it goes. The other advice is to go in and make friends with your dispatch. One or more of them. The entire night crew, the whole goof troop. Go in there and make friends. Be friends. They're real cool guys, so it's not hard. It's not like they're difficult to become friends with or you have to do anything special. Just go in, chat with them, and be cool. And tell them your ideas, tell them your plans, tell them what you want to do, and I'm sure they'll be able to help. And try to get short runs. Short runs are what the Only account is all about. You don't want to drive more than 250 miles. If you do the math and you parse the numbers out, you'll find out that past somewhere around 250 miles, you start getting paid less per mile. You do not want to do long runs. You want short runs. You want runs to Evansville, Indiana. You want runs up to Indianapolis and back. You want runs to St. Louis. You want runs to O'Fallon and back. You want runs down to Paducah and back. In Paducah, there's like 2 Walmarts and a Sam's Club sitting right there. So, and most runs will have you going and coming back. But you definitely don't want runs down to like the Shelby, right? The Shelby yard. I've taken loads down to Shelby, Tennessee. You can't get there and back in one run, so there's no opportunity for a next day. You might pick up something out of the Shelbyville yard coming back up to Olney the next day, like the next run, but you're not going to get any next days if you drive too far. So go, make your run to Paducah, and then you can try to come back and pick up a next day, but but the way that I did it is I would run to like Evansville, or I would just stop at Evansville. Like if you run to Paducah, on your way back, you'll pass by the exit for Evansville, and I would just get off, go to the Walmart at Evansville, because you're carrying a Walmart trailer, so you can park in any Walmart lot, except for some special ones that have like noise ordinances and all that. You might have to shut your APU off. But on the way back from, Madisonville, Kentucky, or the Paducah runs, I would get off and I would stop at Evansville and I would park there, take my break there. I would wake up. I would go rock climb. Then I would get into my truck and I'd go start my work day. Because I knew when my PTA was. My PTA was set for 1800. I won't get a load before 1800, generally. And if they try to give me one, I just have to tell them, well, no, and what's my PTA? And they're like, oh, that's right, you did set a PTA for 1800. But, make sure that you can be back by 1800. I would set my PTA for 1800, come back from Paducah, I would stop in Evansville, stay the night, wake up at about 3 p.m. I would go to a rock climbing gym called Vertical Escape. And I would rock climb, get my climbing in, and then I would go get back in my truck. It'd be about 1600 or so. And they would usually they've already given me my load, and so it's already come to my smartphone via text, or it's already come to my Qualcomm, and I'm like, okay, good, my load is not going to come out until 2000. My load is not going to come out until about 7 p.m. So I know how much time I have to get back. And so I wake up, I check, I see when my load's coming out, that tells me how long I can go play in a rock climbing gym, get back in my truck, I get back on time. As soon as I pull into the yard, I drop my trailer, I go park, I go inside the office, I pick up my load information, and it's ready. It's usually sitting over there. I go pick it up, I go drop it off, and I come back. And so I would come back to the yard, and then I would only come back to the yard if I could get a next day. And this is one of the values of being friends with everybody in that office, is I would call them, and I would say, hey, do you have any frozen dairy? Or meat and produce, I don't give a damn. But what you're going to find is you're going to get remix a lot. You're not going to get frozen dairy, and you're not going to get meat and produce if you want a next day. Next days tend to be remix. And the reason it tends to be remix is because a lot of these Walmart facilities will accept remix produce that day. So like when you go and you drop off your load at wherever it is that you're dropping it off, you call them, you find out if they have any next days, and they're usually going to be remixes, and you'll come back if they say yes. If they say no, you park at one of your favorite places along the way, and you're going to want to make a Google map that has stars of all your favorite places. I have a huge map that has stars all over the goddamn country because those are my favorite truck stops, my favorite Walmarts, those are the safe havens. I know that I can park there. I save goofy little parking spots. And I also save rock climbing gyms and Gold's gyms and places with Olympic swimming pools and all the stuff that I enjoy. I save them. And that's part of my trip planning, is I just plan to stop along the way in these places. And wow, this video is getting kind of long. And so that was just part of my planning, to find those places and stop there. And so if you call up James or Ed and they say, we don't have any next days, you don't go all the way back to the yard from Paducah. You stop in Evansville, take your break there, wake up, have your fun in the morning in Evansville, and then go start the rest of your day. If they say that they do have next days and you've got enough time to take them, go back to the yard, pick them up, and get moving to wherever it is that you got to go. Usually a lot of the next days that I picked up took me to Paducah. I would have weeks where I would go to nowhere except only in Paducah and back. So I hope that kind of helps. Set your PTA early. Set your PTA for like 1800. You want to be really early into that window. Set your PTA early. Be prepared to get loads very late into the night. It does happen. Realize that you're not always going to win. You're not always going to get your next day. Make friends with the guys inside the office, and always call ahead first to see if they have a next day before you go racing trying to get back. There is no sense in racing to get back to pick up a next day when they don't even have one for you. Call ahead and find out. And if the answer is no, if your last drop was to a Walmart that has a lot of good stores and a lot of good shops that are open for business at between 2 and 4 p.m., take your break there. Wake up at 2 or 3 in the afternoon and go play. If the Walmart that is your last stop is not your favorite place in the world, drive on, drive until you find another Walmart, like Evansville, and stop there. Take your break, wake up at 2, have your fun there, go in. If they have a next day, grab it and go. So this has been the first question. He's got a couple more, and I'm going to make more videos about the rest of his questions, because these videos have, this video has gone on for too long. So his next question is about gyms, and I will make a video about that next.